Let's learn how to make doodle animations the easy way in Blender 3D. Blender is a free animation tool that can make 2D and 3D animations. We can add next-gen visual effects such as real-time physics simulation and integrate 3D models along with our 2D characters. All of this can get a bit complicated though, so in this video I'm going to focus on just what you guys want to see, and that's how we can make these doodle animations in Blender. We're going to talk about the animation process, then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the equipment that I use if you're looking to make this sort of animation yourself. You can go ahead and follow the link in the description to download Blender 4.3. The materials you will need to get started are first a PC or laptop that is capable of handling the computer-generated effects in Blender. Secondly, you're going to need a pen or display tablet so we can draw naturally as we explore Grease Pencil. I recommend a shortcut remote to quickly input hotkeys to speed up your workflow. Of course, that's optional. Don't worry too much about your setup. Blender is a remarkably well optimized and stable program. You might be able to do a lot more than you think just using the computer you have. I made my very first animated video in Grease Pencil using this mini PC with integrated graphics. For my Grease Pencil setup, I used the GEEKOM AE7 mini PC paired with the XP Pen Artist 24 Pro Generation 2. If you stick around though, I do have a more cost-effective setup option for good performance in your multimedia digital art setup. Let's animate. On second thought, we're actually going to use Blender 4.1. And the reason is because recently Grease Pencil got a huge update that rewrote the entire framework of 2D animation in Blender. So let's go ahead and hit download. And to keep things simple, let's use Blender 4.1. So we'll get the basics of how to use Grease Pencil and so that you'll be able to understand this update a bit better. So let's say looking for previous versions, download any Blender version, scroll down this scary looking list, Blender 4.1 right here. Then you're going to want to select the version that's appropriate for your operating system. That will be, for me, Windows. You can get the zip file, which is right here. So go ahead and then open up Blender, and you should get a screen that looks just like this. Now here are my recent doodle animation files. I find that this style of animation is so fun to make. I really enjoy it, and I think you're going to as well. So let's see how we go through the entire process of making a whiteboard style doodle animation in Blender. You're going to want to go down to New File and go to 2D Animation and click that. This is a basic template that'll adjust some of Blender's settings so you can get started quickly. Now you can scroll your mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and just know you're not going to have this undo, redo, and several other shortcuts buttons here. That's an add-on. I'm actually going to hide that now. All right, let's go over some basic controls. So I have the top button on my pen set to middle mouse, and that'll allow me to pan around the 3D view. This right here, that's our camera. So I'm panning around the 3D view with the middle mouse. Then I can hit 0 on the numpad to reset to my camera. You can't do that by default, so in order to configure that, go to Edit, Preferences, Input, and select Emulate Numpad. That way your normal number keys will function as a numpad if you don't have a separate numpad. If you do have a separate numpad, just hit the 0 key to reset to the camera view. All right, now I can hit Shift, also middle click to pan in the 2D view. This is what you're going to be doing mostly since we're working in 2D animation, but I do like to spice things up with some 3D elements as well. Rotate the canvas view with the middle mouse, Shift, middle click to pan the view, 0 to reset to the camera view, Shift middle clicked, pan around in 2D view. Okay, so you can already draw. They already have things set up for you. Another thing I want to mention is Blender has different editing modes. So we're in draw mode right now. We have our Grease Pencil stroke selected here in the scene collection. Now if we go to object mode, you'll notice we can no longer draw. So if you're finding you're getting this selection box, just know you want to select your Grease Pencil stroke, and then go up to object mode and set it back to draw mode. Okay, awesome. So I think now is a good time to talk about the setup. First of all, the computer, your system. The setup I'm using here is run on the brand new GEEKOM A6 mini PC. And they claim that this is the best mini PC under $500, equipped with the AMD 6800H CPU and Radeon 680M GPU. Using grease pencil, modifiers, and several effects, the GEEKOM A6 holds up great even when it comes to rendering times. This type of workflow is really going to push a compact computer like this to its limits. You can make professional work with Blender, and you don't need an expensive computer to do it. Special thanks to GEEKOM for sponsoring this video. Now, we're pairing this GEEKOM A6 with this pen display that I'm using. This is the Huion Canvas Pro 19. Why the Pro 19? Well, because it comes with touch features. That means we don't necessarily need to use a keyboard along with this drawing setup. You can navigate on this tablet just like you do on a mobile device, quick and efficiently, with Windows recognizing when no keyboard is attached. Another highlight of the Huion Canvas Pro 19 is that it has pass-through charging, meaning this is one of the greatest options if you want a pro-level Samsung DeX setup. You just go ahead and plug your phone into this tablet and it will charge your phone from the wall, keeping you fueled up when you're on the move. I highly recommend you place a tablet of this size on a strong, articulate monitor arm to get the best out of it. You don't want to be looking down at this display all day. That can really strain the muscles in your neck. I would know because I'm nursing several muscle knots in my neck as we speak. There's a lot of good to say about the Pro 19. I only have two specific drawbacks. The first one is the surface of this tablet is smoother than I would like. It doesn't give you as much pen control as the X Paper from XP Pen. Second drawback is the Huion driver software. It's disappointing. We have shortcut key latency. You have to go through two confirmation windows when you turn on and off Windows Ink. I'm not impressed. But as for the build of this tablet, the features, and especially the pen that has the perfect amount of shortcut keys on it, flawless. Great job to Huion on this product. So pairing these two products gives us a pretty sophisticated looking animation station. So let's animate. All right, let's get to drawing. So in Blender, what you can do is come up to this tool and workspace settings tab right here, and then you'll get your brushes. Now the brush I love to use, I'm just gonna tap this brush library, is this F pen. It's just a very basic, no pressure sensitivity applied pen. That's what I use for my doodle animations. So we can draw around the canvas. If we select the eraser tool, we can also erase. That's an eraser that's dissolving the strokes. We can also set it to point where it'll take away points of the stroke. This is all vector based. Then we can also set it to stroke where it can just eliminate the entire stroke. So I like to keep it on point. Go back to my pen tool. Now, what if we want to draw in a different color? So let's go ahead and hit this materials tab. And these colors in the materials tab work just like they do in OpenTunes. So if I select solid fill, this is a fill color. I can fill things. If I select this square stroke, it'll make a stroke out of a bunch of squares. This dot stroke is similar with dots. I'm going to select the solid stroke, and I'm actually going to make a new color because these are the defaults and I don't find them that useful. Let's hit plus new, and then we can set it to stroke or fill. So we're going to set it to stroke, and we're going to hit the base color, set it to this blue, and now we're drawing in blue. One thing I do like to do is I like to go to this data properties tab, and I select on the layer I'm using. This is what displays your layers in Grease Pencil. So we're on the lines layer now. At this point, I'm going to draw something on the canvas. Let's set back to our solid stroke color. But to be honest, I don't usually use a white canvas. For my new channel aesthetic, I chose something gray. So let's change the canvas color by going to the World tab, Color, and I select, let's get it down to a middle gray. And then I'm going to make another material, and I'm going to make this a white colored stroke, because this is more my speed right here. Now we're ready to draw something. Before we draw something, we're going to make sure we're on the right layer. So I'm on the lines layer, that's great. But when you notice this, I'm going to draw something on the lines layer and on the fills layer. Let's draw a fill or something. I don't know if I can really do that. I'm still new to Grease Pencil, so these two lines are on different layers, right? But if I'm on the fills and I start erasing, it's erasing the lines on both layers. And traditionally, that doesn't happen in 2D animation software. So how do we fix this? Well, we can go ahead and click this drop-down arrow and select Auto Lock Inactive Layers. And what that means is when we're editing the fill layer, we're only going to affect the fill layer. So as you can see, I can no longer erase that stroke that's on the other layer. I actually have to move my layers, and then I can go ahead and erase that. So that's very useful. That works more like traditional 2D animation softwares do. You don't, now Blender, the great thing with Blender is that you always have the option. So that's nice. Let's get to drawing something. I'm on the lines layer now. All right, let's add some color. So I'm going to go to fills, then I'm going to go to material. I'm going to go to my blue color and I'm going to change this a little bit more. You can actually, I don't have to change it now. I can always change it later. And I do like to color in manually with just regular strokes on a lower layer. And that's because what we're going to do to see our drawings playing back looks best when we fill these colors in manually. So I'm actually filling in the wrong area. I'm supposed to be filling in right here. That's why I like to scribble in my colors, kind of like I'm using a crayon. I'm gonna make a new color. This is gonna be my green. Okay, and then I'm gonna make one more color. I think I can use the solid fill just to show how it works. Yeah, so this color, as you can see, it's not set to stroke, it's set to fill. So you can go ahead and, oops. So it works a little differently. You just select, make a shape. It's almost like the selection tool, the lasso selection tool, and you can fill something in. I want to add some variety here. Make the playback really cool. And I do want to add another color, that's my red. I want something not too saturated here. Just to fill in this X button. Now here's the icing on the cake. How do we make this drawing play back our frames just like it does in whiteboard animation? So we're gonna go to modifiers, add modifier. So I'm gonna hit save first and give this a name. Call this Doodle animation test. Well, it's actually two things. We're gonna select add modifier, noise, and when we hit play, you'll notice that our window just starts acting a little crazy. So we're just gonna turn this positioning down a little bit more. There you go, something more mild. And as you can see, it has that sort of charming boiling effect that is quite pleasing animation, and it's all random, which is nice. All right, now I'm gonna hit the noise scale. I'm just gonna turn that up just a little bit, and that'll make it so, as you can see, it'll add some ripple to the lines. This is really up to your taste how much you would like. You can also play with all these settings. Noise offset, I'm not sure what that's doing, to be honest. UV, thickness. Oh, wow. So that'll change the thickness of the lines. What about the strength? Well, that's the opacity of the lines as well. So you can really have a lot of options here. Don't want it to look too messy, but that looks pretty cool. All right, now that's gonna give us that lively, boiling doodle effect. Now here's the cherry on top, and we're gonna add a modifier and we're gonna call it build. And as you can see, it's already building in front of us, replaying all of our strokes to make the drawing we see, which is really cool. So we have it set to sequential, meaning it's going to draw the make the drawing that we saw in the order that we've drawn it. And notice, take note that this is, as you can see, it's putting the colors and the lines at the same time. You might be thinking, but wait a minute, we drew those white lines before we made those colors. But this sequential building of those lines happens per layer. Okay, that's really important to remember. It's per layer. If you wanted to play back the drawing exactly the way you drew it, and in the order you drew it with lines and fills, you have to draw them all on the same layer. Okay, that was an important thing I had to learn. So let's play around with this build modifier. So it's set to sequential, and that's good. So it draws it in the order that we want it to be drawn. But and it's also set to a number of frames. So this will take, from the keyframe, 100 frames to draw. Now, if we add a new frame, we can just do that by drawing something. That's on the lines layer. What you notice is that it'll just start 100 frames from where we started that layer. So at frame 200, it finishes the stroke. So that means every time you have a new keyframe, which you can activate by just drawing something, or you can go down here and hit I, and hit I on the keyboard and hit keyframe on all channels. You can do that as well. It'll automatically draw it for you 100 frames after you set the keyframe. That's what you can do with number of frames, but that's usually not how I use the build modifier. So what I usually do is I set this to percentage factor. And percentage factor is a parameter that can be keyframed, so you can decide when you want your drawing to finish building. So I'm gonna hit a keyframe at the start, and that's just hitting this little dot next to the factor parameter. Then I'm going to go to frame 60, say I want it faster, and I'm going to drag this up. Okay, so now we're going to play this. Then it draws much faster, which is great. Now let's select this, the editing context, drop down menu, hit dope sheet. And the reason I select dope sheet is because when you have it on grease pencil, you can see the different frames that you've drawn. And I did neglect to show you how to draw frames, but it's pretty easy. You can just go to a frame, start drawing, and you'll create a new one. Or like we said, go here, right click, insert keyframes, and you can do that per layer as well, or just hit I. Okay. So now I like to select this, put this on dope sheet, because now since we set a keyframe on this factor parameter in the build modifier, we can now see that on our dope sheet and we can edit it. So if I select a new keyframe here, I can set this back. Okay, let's play that and see how that looks. So it draws to completion by frame 60 and then it goes backwards, which is pretty cool. And guys, we haven't even scratched the surface of what you can do with this build modifier yet. We can set the mode to concurrent instead of sequential, so everything draws at the same time. Looks super epic. We can also set it to additive, which I can't tell the difference between additive and sequential, so maybe a Blender expert will have to leave a comment, and I would really appreciate that. We can also set it to natural drawing speed, which I believe goes at your natural drawing speed. Or a natural drawing speed. Oh, okay, so you can set a speed factor. If we put that up, we can increase the speed. But I guess it, oh yeah, I did those fills pretty slow, huh? But yeah, isn't this pretty sweet? You can make your own storytime animations with all of these tools. Now, before I show you what I've come up with, well, let me show you the keyframes first. So we have this draw in. Now say, if we want to completely change the drawing, we can just go ahead and select either layer, our lines or our fills, and then draw in whatever we want, or just draw in the lines there and then go ahead, I guess I have red selected, and fill it in with whatever we would like. Okay, maybe this will be some sort of fruit or something, melon fruit. And you know, you don't always have to make a whole new material in order to make a color. What you can do is you can hit N on the keyboard and that'll bring up, you can have your tool options here instead of having to always go up to this tab, so we can keep our other tabs here. And then we can go to color attribute. With our color selected, we're on green right now, color attribute, and then we can draw in a different color. And we can always set it back to material if we want to color with the original color we want. So but just know that in order to match this color, in order to get this color again, you're gonna have to find it in color attribute. It's pretty easy. Just scroll all over the color wheel in your tools tab, hit E, you'll get the eyedropper tool, select the color you just had. And the way you can get the most accurate colors is by turning off this lights option. All right, so now what happens when we play this, we get a melon, but why doesn't the melon draw in the same way our little computer screen did? Well, it's because our factor is still set to 1. In order to fix that, we're gonna go back to the modifiers, set a keyframe on the factor right before the window disappears. When the window disappears, we're going to set this back to 0, and then we're going to pick a frame of our choice, maybe frame 130, drag this back up to 1. That's complete. And now we'll have an animation of our window drawing in, and then it disappears and our melon draws in. What if we want to add another grease pencil object on top of this? So we're going to go ahead and go to object mode. We're going to hit add. And we're going to go to grease pencil blank. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and drag this grease pencil into the collection that our original grease pencil was in. And we're going to name this stroke 2. Now we're in stroke 2. We can go to object mode and hit draw. Kind of scroll to frame 57 in order to start our drawing here. We can go ahead and draw just like we did normally. Now, if I'm pan out of the canvas, you'll realize that these are all 3D objects. And so sometimes when you're drawing a grease pencil, and you create a new one, a second one, you'll notice that when you draw, it's underneath the window that you first created. It didn't happen now, which is good, but it can happen. And if that does happen to you, all you have to do is go to object mode. Oh, well, let's actually draw something so we can have an example. So say I draw this, right? And I go to object mode and say, I'm just gonna hit G and then Y axis. You're looking, it looks like this, like you can't really see it. All you have to do is hit G in the Y axis, or whatever axis, Y, X, or Z, wherever your camera is at, G, and then whatever axis, and then you can just drag it upwards, just until it's over the layer you want, okay? Next, we're gonna go back to draw mode. Gonna erase this stroke, add my, oh, okay, so since we're on a new grease pencil, our materials are gone, but not so, my friend. All we have to do is hit plus, new material, we select this little materials icon, and all of our materials from our previous grease pencil are here, which is excellent. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw in something. All right, and if I want to edit these strokes, I can go ahead and change the editing mode to edit mode. Click and drag to select all of these, hit G and move these. I can hit G to move them, S to scale them, R to rotate them, R twice to rotate them in 3D. Going to make a new material, and I'm going to put my idea right in here. Idea. Now we have to add those same modifiers to this new grease pencil. I'm gonna add modifier, go to noise. We can do whatever. I'm actually gonna drag this keyframe back over here. So we can do whatever we'd like to do. Let's make the strength even higher this time. Position lower. I can't even read it now, so we gotta put that strength down a little bit. Thickness, we can do that. Change the thickness of the lines. You can make it look absolutely crazy. Whatever you like. Then of course we want to add the build modifier. We'll set this one to number of frames so it's a little easier to handle. Set it to 30 frames. So let's set this back here so it'll draw in quickly. And now we have two grease pencil objects interacting at the same time. We're going to go back to our first stroke and delete the watermelon. Awesome. So now we have our computer screen here to stay. And I have to delete the melon on both layers, I recognize. All right, so now we have our collection with our two grease pencils. And we hit play, our computer window draws in, and we have our idea. Oh, I realize the factor resets because of our watermelon. I can go ahead and delete those frames. I don't need them anymore. I'm just gonna delete this one as well. Set this when it gets to here, it's gonna be 1. Which makes animating in Blender very, very, very easy and fun. So one last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to stroke where we were on initially, and we can go to this effects. We can add an effect, and we're going to hit pixelate. So we're going to hit this. We're going to change our viewport shadings. Let's select this shiny circle right here, and then we should be able to see the pixelate effect. Excellent, awesome. So now we're going to go to frame 0, set this to 1. They're going to go, once it finishes drawing, set this to 1 again. Then a few frames later, let's drag it up. Let's really crank it. 64, 64. All right, why not? And that, my friends, is how you make doodle animations in Blender. So now we're going to export this animation. Go ahead and go to output. Here you can set your resolution. And as long as your resolution has the same ratio as the one you have set now, the camera's not going to change size. So say I change this to 560 by 1440. That's still a 16 by 9 resolution. It's just much higher. And as you can see, our camera remains the same. We can set our frame range here as well. So I'm going to go to 150, set this to 150 frames. That's all we want to render. Hit save. And next you want to look at our output. So I want to output this as a video. So I'm going to go ahead and select the file format parameter and scroll down to FMMPEG video. That'll be an MP4. Change the output container to MPEG-4. QuickTime will make it an MOV, which I usually like to use, so I'll set it to that instead, actually. Vital step, we didn't set a file path for this to go to. So let's go ahead and hit that file folder where it says output, and I'll put this in my videos folder and hit accept. Now we can render it. All right, now we have our finished doodle animation video. Tune in next time when we're going to add the audio to this. This is truly Storytime Animation 101. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Set up your animation station for Storytime doodle animation. Special thanks to GEEKOM for sponsoring this video. APUs have come a long way. You really couldn't get this kind of graphics performance growing up. So to see the fact that you're able to push through 3D animation workflows, even some recent fast-paced titles titles all on an APU is pretty sweet. You can check out the brand new GEEKOM A6 in the description below. That's all from me, guys. Happy animating.